Space, the ultimate boundary. These are the expeditions of the starship Acadia. Its 8-year objective: to investigate unfamiliar planets, to discover novel life and civilizations, and to fearlessly venture into uncharted territories. Developed by screenwriter Gene L. Coon in 1967 for the original Star Trek series, Klingons first appeared in the Star Trek episode Errand of Mercy. Now, they were named in real life after Lieutenant Wilbur Klingon, who served with Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry in the Los Angeles Police Department, and who had acted in several minor television roles in the 1960s, including an episode of Dragnet. Now, they were initially intended to be the antagonist for the crew of the USS Enterprise, and they were portrayed as swarthy humanoids characterized by prideful ruthlessness and brutality. They practiced a form of feudalism and authoritarianism with a warrior caste that relied on slave labor, and their culture was somewhat reminiscent of warrior cultures such as Mongols and the Spartans. Per Roddenberry, their society was totally devoted to personal gain by the cleverest, strongest, and most treacherous acts. As a result, their vessels often operated more like privateers, and warlike acts were a part of their way of life. Life on all levels of Klingon society was completely supervised, and extensive use of snooping devices helped maintain control of the population. Now, at this time, Klingons were typically portrayed with bronze skin, which was provided by an application of shoe polish, and long, thin mustaches. And while this makeup suggested an Asian background, it was chiefly born out of a desire on the part of the producers to save money. In the original Star Trek series, the Klingons took on the Cold War role of the Soviet Union, with the fictional government of the United Federation of Planets representing the United States. Now, as the 70s and 80s progressed, the public began to see the portrayal of Klingons as more of an anti-Asian yellow-facing, and the producers began to radically change the physical portrayal of the race to the ridged forehead, proud warrior people that became the more common trope. Now, Klingons are renowned for their hardy physical build, possessing heavy musculature and an imposing physical strength. And interestingly, in later episodes, they're presenting as possessing redundant internal organs, including an 8-chambered heart, a third lung, an extra pair of kidneys, and even a second brain stem. And due to their rapid metabolism, they can heal quickly and withstand extreme physical trauma. Now, like the Spartans, Klingons were instructed in combat as soon as they could walk, and they were happiest to engage in acts of physical prowess, such as hunting and fighting. And while their culture was presented in fairly simple terms in the original series, later series sought to give them cultural depth, adding concepts such as a Bushido-like code of honor. And in addition, writers developed a Klingon afterlife, where they could enter a Valhalla-like heaven if they died with honor. Here that simply means in battle. Also, over the course of several of the films and later series, the guttural Klingon language was developed. And interestingly, it was James Scotty Doohan who developed the vestiges of the Klingon language. And this was expanded by Mark Okrand, who further developed Doohan's gibberish words into a working language with over 3,000 separate words. And according to the Guinness Book of World Records, Klingon is the most widely spoken fictional language by the number of speakers. Now, even Klingon recreation is aggressive, with the most common hobby being mokbara, a form of Tai Chi-like martial art that involves the use of the batleth, an edged weapon with a curved blade, 4 points, and handholds on the back. Now, Klingons also have some musical and poetic talent. They appreciate a strident form of opera that typically recounts tales of doomed heroes, star-crossed lovers, and inevitable tragedy. And these librettos are set to a very strident singing and instrumentation, whose discordant tones are hard to tolerate by non-Klingon listeners. Now, it wasn't until the 3rd season that the series had enough of a budget to allow designer Matt Jeffries to create a Klingon ship. And this familiar D7 battlecruiser was designed to mimic the color and appearance of a manta ray. And Klingon ships are naturally heavily armed, their primary weapons being particle beams, disruptors, and photon torpedoes. And in later episodes, they were given cloaking devices. The interior of these ships was spare and utilitarian, with set designers influenced by World War II-era submarines. And to appear threatening, D7 battlecruisers were designed with a spread-wing primary hull, a long neck, and a bulbous forward command module. To propel the D7, there was both an impulse engine and a warp drive. So it's now time to shoot at something that can maneuver and shoot back at you. And in Scenario 3, we'll be commanding the Klingon battlecruiser Destruction, and we'll match up against a flotilla of freighters that have some offensive capabilities. Now the rules of Scenario 3 will cover handling ships that are moving at different speeds. The freighters in this scenario are much slower than the battlecruiser, how direct fire weapons damage shields, firing disruptors, and finally how to launch drones. So let's talk a little bit more about performing movement. As stated in the earlier scenarios, when a ship moves, it always moves 1 hex during an impulse. However, faster ships can move in more impulses per turn, while slower ships move in fewer impulses per turn. We'll still play this scenario with an 8 impulse per turn chart. Now, in an 8 impulse turn, fast craft like drones and plasma torpedoes move at a speed of 8, meaning that they move 1 hex per impulse for each of the 8 impulses, or 8 hexes per turn. In a 16 impulse turn, they would move at a speed of 16, or move 16 hexes per turn, and during a 32 impulse turn, they would have a speed of 32. Now, ships can change their speed, and thus, during an 8 impulse turn, a Klingon battlecruiser could change its speed from 0 to 8, meaning that it could move 1 hex from 0 to 8 impulses in that turn. Now, this proportional movement system might take a bit of time to wrap your head around, so let's give an example to illustrate it in action. In an 8 impulse scenario, a drone is moving at a speed of 8, while the Klingon battlecruiser is moving at a speed of 6, and let's say a Federation cruiser is moving at a speed of 4. Now refer to the 8 impulse movement chart and check the columns for each of the craft. That would be the 8 column, the 6 column, and the 4 column. And as each impulse occurs, you check the row to see who gets the chance to move. Thus, during impulse 1, only the drone gets to move 1 hex for its first movement of the turn, and the Klingon and Federation ships remain stationary. During the second impulse, you consult the second row, and you note that the drone makes its second turn. The Klingon ship in the 6 column makes its first single hex movement, and the Federation ship in the 4 column also makes its first 1 hex movement. On the third impulse, the drone again moves, as does the Klingon ship, for its second 1 hex movement. And you notice that there's a dash in the 4 column, so the Federation ship does not get to move during this impulse. Now on the 4th impulse, all 3 craft again get to go, and on the 5th impulse, only the drone gets to move. On the 6th impulse, all craft move, and on the 7th, both the drone and the Klingon craft get to move. Finally, in the 8th impulse, all 3 craft again move. Thus, the drones moved 8 hexes during the turn, the Klingon has moved 6 hexes, and the Federation has moved 4 hexes. Now note that impulses can never be skipped, even if none of the units can move in that impulse. So in reality, the units are moving, but they haven't crossed the border into the next hex yet. Thus, if all of the units were moving at a speed of 1, you'd still work through the other 7 impulses of an 8 impulse turn, even though all the ships would actually only move on impulse number 8. And units can still fire and launch weapons and perform a host of other functions on impulses in which they don't move. Now, talking a little bit about shields and direct fire weapons, if a shield is attacked by direct fire weapons, for example phasers, it's important to determine which of its shields absorbs the damage. This is done by simply drawing a line from the center of the firing ship's hex to the center of the target ship's hex. Now, if the line from the firing to target hex travels exactly along a hex side, then the shield that's actually hit is resolved by arbitrarily assigning odd numbers to one shield and even numbers to the other, and then you roll a die to determine which shield is hit. Now, as we learned in the last scenario, if 2 ships are in the same hex, firing directions are judged, for both shields and weapon purposes, from the positions occupied the impulse before the impulse on which those ships occupied the same hex. And in this case, the range is still 0 and the ships are still in that hex. Now, disruptor bolts are carried by Klingon ships and certain others, and disruptors fire bolts of highly charged plasma, which is technically negatrons and antiprotons. And these bolts can cut through metal or cause explosions due to thermal shock. They're less effective than photon torpedoes, but they can be fired more frequently. And since disruptors can't wreck a ship in one shot like photons can, this causes Klingons, who must maneuver for a second shot, to fight with differing tactics than, say, Federation ships, who must take advantage of the arming cycle of alternating fire and reloads during their turn. Now, each DISR box on the SSD represents one disruptor bolt firing point, and each is recorded and fired separately. And disruptors can be fired once every turn, like phasers, during the direct fire weapon step of any impulse. Now, the number of damage points scored by the disruptor is determined by the range and a die roll, and you refer to the disruptor bolt chart on the Klingon SSD. Using this range, look on the chart to determine the hit probability, roll a single die, and if the result is within the range of probabilities listed, then the weapon is hit. And you score the damage points as shown on the bottom of the chart. If the effective range of a disruptor bolt is different from the true range, for example, if a target is cloaked, you use the effective range to determine the probability of a hit, and the true range to determine the number of damage points scored, if a hit were to be made. And the maximum range of disruptors is different with each ship class that carries them. Now, most ships armed with disruptor bolts in the Cadet Training Handbook have a maximum range of 30 hexes. Note that disruptors can't be fired at a range of 0. A little bit more on drones. Drones are these small unmanned missiles with warp speed capability. And Klingons and other ships carry these devices as auxiliary weapons. Basically, drones are similar to 20th century radar homing missiles. Thus, they home in and follow a target. Now, they're carried in a drone rack, and each drone rack carries 4 drones and can launch one of them every turn, and not within 1/4 turn of a launch by that specific rack on a previous turn. Now notice, for example, on the Klingon Cadet battlecruiser, a row of 4 boxes below the ship is marked Drone Rack 1, and this is the ammunition track which records the number of drones loaded on the launch rack shown on the ship itself. Now, as each drone is fired, you check off 1 box on the track, and if that launcher is destroyed in combat, any drones still on the launcher are also destroyed. This track can't be used to score internal damage. Now, drones can be launched during the appropriate step of each impulse during each turn. And when launched, a drone is placed on the top of the launching ship, facing any direction at the option of the owning player, so long as the target is in the drone's FA arc. Now, the target for each drone must be announced in this phase, and once a target's set, it can't be changed. Now, all craft except plasma torpedoes can be targeted. And note that while a drone can be launched in any direction, it has to move 1 hex in that direction to satisfy its turn mode before it can turn. Now, a drone has 3 turns to hit its target, and if it does not reach its target within this time period, it's removed from play. And if a drone is fired during a given impulse of a turn, it will reach the end of this endurance during the same impulse of a later turn. Now, phasers, plasma torpedoes, and other drones can all be fired at drones without any penalty. And when firing photon torpedoes, disruptors, fusion beams, or plasmatic pulsar devices, you add 2 to the die roll when firing at a drone, thus making it harder to hit them. And you are allowed to ignore this penalty in scenario number 2, but not again. Drones are destroyed if they receive 4 damage points. Now, when a drone's in the hex of a target during the Resolve Seeking Weapon step, it explodes and it scores a number of damage points on the facing shield of the target equal to its warhead rating. This is usually 6 damage points when you're using cadet ships, and 12 damage points when you're using regular ships. Damage points are scored against the shield facing the direction of the approach, assuming that shield's still functioning, and the damage points in excess of the shield strength are scored as internal damage. Couple notes on freighters. In this scenario, freighters are only used as abstract targets, and so we have special rules for them particular to this scenario. In this case, each freighter's shield will be considered to be down after 5 damage points are scored on that freighter from any direction or combination of directions, and after that point, all damage is considered to be internal. Also, each freighter is armed with a phaser 2 that can fire in any direction, and the weapon will cease to function immediately when the freighter has received 5 points of internal damage. Next, each freighter will move at a speed of 4 hexes per turn, and after receiving 10 points of internal damage, the speed is reduced to 3 hexes per turn. After receiving 15 points of internal damage, the speed is reduced to 2 hexes per turn. And these speed reductions take effect at the start of the next turn after that damage is scored. Finally, after receiving 20 points of internal damage, the freighter is destroyed, and damage on each freighter is resolved and recorded separately. And note that a total of 25 damage points is required to destroy a freighter. That would be 5 for the shields and 20 for the ship itself. So 10 quick things to remember when we're playing this scenario. First of all, units always move up to 1 hex per impulse. And faster ships move more impulses per turn rather than hexes. Second, ships can only change their speed at the beginning of a turn. Third, units can still do other actions during impulses, even if they can't move during that impulse. 4, if a line of fire is on a hex side, you roll a dice and determine which hex the fire would travel through and which shield on the target ship would be affected. 5th, disruptors can't fire at a range of 0. 6th, remember you can only launch 1 drone per turn. 7, drone racks can't be used to score internal damage. 8, photon torpedoes and disruptors always add a +2 penalty when they try to hit a drone. 9, you can launch a drone in any direction. And finally, 10, drones have 3 turns to hit their target before they self-destruct. Okay, specifics on the scenario. This is a convoy raid, and the neutral planet of Iridima has refused to sell iridium to the Klingon Empire, preferring instead to sell it to the Federation. Now, this metal is vitally important to starship construction, and while the supply from Iridima represents only a fraction of that available to the Federation or the Empire, it could make an important difference. A convoy of 4 freighters is now headed towards the Federation border, and your battlecruiser, the Imperial Klingon vessel Destruction, is assigned to pursue and destroy this convoy, preventing it from reaching the Federation territory. This should teach the Iridimans that they should sell their iridium to the Empire or to no one at all. Now, in this case, the freighters will move directly ahead without turning until they reach hex row 15XX, at which point then each freighter will turn to a heading of C. And they'll fire their phasers as follows. Freighter A will fire its phaser at the Klingon or a drone targeted on itself on impulse 2 of every turn. Freighter B will fire on impulse 4, Freighter C on impulse 6, Freighter D on impulse 8. And approaching drones always have priority over the Klingon ship as a target. In this scenario, the freighters will move at a rate of 4 hexes per turn, and this will be reduced by damage as we mentioned above. Now, the Klingon player can select any speed from 0 to 8 hexes per turn at the start of each turn, and they can change speed every turn if they wish, or keep the same speed for 2 or more turns. Now, the drones launched by the Klingon ship always have a speed of 8. Now, in this scenario, the freighters are going to try to escape by moving off the right edge of the map. That's the 28XX row. And any freighter off the map is safe and can't be fired on. So for the Klingon player to win the scenario, they have to destroy all 4 freighters before they can leave the map. So this is scenario 3, and I'll try to go through this kind of slowly and carefully so that we can try to get this as close to right as I can. Again, learning the system's I'm always forgetting stuff as I'm actually playing. Sometimes I just kind of get into it and forget some points. So if you see stuff that isn't quite right, leave a comment down below so that at least other people watching this can kind of go through and make some corrections. Now, a couple things I did a little different to this setup is I changed the freighters. So now Freighter 1 is here, and then I did Freighter 2, then 3, then 4. I did this so that the freighters would have a little bit more of a fighting chance. Every time I've played it, it's pretty easy to take them all out without working up too much of a sweat for the Klingons. But anyway, so I changed those. I gave these some labels, and I also, on the data sheet, I put all my phasers here so they're kind of handy in one place, because this is all I'm really going to need for data. Okay, let's get started. Now, we start with moving our ships, and since I've got my impulse chart down here, and impulse 8 is for the Klingon ship. So let me zoom in a little bit so we can see a little better. Got a lot of tables and stuff to keep track of, and I'm not sure I really like this nebula thing. It looks kind of cool, but it makes it awful hard to see sometimes. I think a plain black background works a little better for most of these games. But we've got our 8 impulse Klingon ship here, and then our freighters are going to be moving at 4 for the time being. I'm a little far out to launch any drones or any attacks, so I think I'm just going to go ahead as the Klingon and move forward 1. This impulse. I always say turn, and I mean an impulse when I say that. So I need to get used to the language of this game a little better. Okay, now we go to, and then nothing else is going to happen. So now we're going to move to impulse 2. See, I did it again. And again, we move our ships. Now this time, all the ships can move. And also need to note that ship 1, Freighter 1, can actually try to make an attack. So we'll do that. We'll go ahead and attack with Freighter 1. That's a photon that he's using. And it's going to be a range of 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's roll. We got a 5 with or phaser. I'm sorry, not a photon, a phaser. And this we need to get rid of this. Let's take care of our phaser first here. So we rolled a 5 at a range of 4. So that's nothing. Okay, let's get rid of that. We're not going to use photons in this. And let's pull our weapons. And when I said photons, I meant disruptors, because these are Klingons. Okay. There we go. I think that's everybody. And that's, yeah, we're using phaser type 2. We're not using 1, which is the Federation ships. Okay, so they've done their thing. That's no seeking weapons. We fired our direct fire weapons, and we resolved. And again, the Klingons aren't going to do anything yet. We go to Impulse 3 and move this guy. And now no one else can move at this point. So just this guy. I think I'm going to go ahead and fire a disruptor at... let's try firing our phasers. So, whoops. Let's see, we have 2 phasers to fire on the left. Now, let's keep them. Let's launch it. No, let's just stay put. Again, I want to get a little closer. So, okay. Impulse 4. We move. We move. We move. Move and move. Now, with the Klingons, I think I'm going to try to hit them with enough damage that I can take out phasers, and then try to weaken them enough that they can't move as fast, and then I can just pick them off. Now this time, I've moved my ships. I think I'm going to go ahead and move my ships, move seeking weapons, resolve seeking weapons, so launch seeking weapons. And we're going to launch a drone. So let's launch... show data, and we are going to do drone 1, and I think I'm going to do it towards F2. So we're going to say F2, drone 1. Let's put a drone counter on here, and I tell you what, I've got 4 drones. Oops, we need some Klingon drones, I guess. This is kind of tricky to use. Asteroids, debris. We need a counter for a drone. Counters, starships. There we go. Let's go Klingon. Klingon drone. Okay, and I'm gonna pull 4 of those out. 3 and 4, and just hold them over there. And so their first Klingon drone is launched, and it will go towards 2, and that's going to be I can launch in any direction, so that'll be in my field of fire. So let's clear moved. Come on, move. Clear movement trail. Okay. So that's a drone that I've launched. I can't launch another drone until the next turn. Fire direct weapons. Let's see. So 2 will get to fire. Freighter 2 now has a chance to fire, and they're going to fire at a range of 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's roll. A 5 at a range of 4 is nothing, so that doesn't do anything. My Klingons, I think, will use Phaser 2 and Phaser 4. So let's show that. And Phaser 2 will fire at... we're going to fire at F1. And this is in Impulse 4. And then I'm just going to say F1, and then 4, and then Phaser 4, F1. Because I think those can both fire off the left side there. Okay. And so we roll 2 phaser rolls. He's 2 away. We get a 3 and a 5. So the 3 gets 4 points and the 5 gets 3 points. So that's 7 points that F1 takes. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then internals, 6 and 7. So it's not enough to take the phaser out, but it's getting there. Okay, that's our all our direct fire's done, and we can end the impulse. Okay. Now we will go to 5, and the only person that's going to be able to move in 5 is the Klingons. So we will turn to the left. Right. I always get that wrong. I wish it said clockwise, counterclockwise. Okay, and then this guy is going to move here. And we will turn right there. Okay. And now that I'm facing this guy, I think I will fire my disruptors. And I think I'll fire, let's see, I think I'll fire disruptor. I can fire 2 disruptors. Let me get my data. And I can fire phaser 1 also. Let's do that. Let's fire phaser 1. 5 at F1. And then disruptor A is going to be at 5. And I'm going to try that at F2. And 5 at F1. F1. Okay. So we're going to hit him hard. Okay, so let's go through and start figuring out phaser. So phaser 1 is firing. And 4 at a range of 2. Range 2. So that's 4 points of damage on F1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's enough to take his phaser out. And then 5F1, we have a disruptor firing. And so the range is 1, 2. And so we need to run 1 through 5. If I get a 6, it misses. Okay, so he hits. And that does 4 points of damage. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So his speed is now reduced. We can change his label to speed 3. But that doesn't take effect until the next turn. Okay. We'll get him out of the way. And then we had one more disruptor firing over here. And that was at a range of 1, 2, 3, 4. And we roll a 1. Okay, that's good. So we make it. And that disruptor, I didn't want that to go up there. Got too many pieces of paper going here, tables and stuff. Let's see, a range of 4. Is a 4. 4 points of damage to F2. Okay. Okay, that is that. And that's the end of Impulse 5. We go to Impulse 6. Now this is a time for everybody to move. So, move. He can still move. He's still moving as if he were 4. 4. 4. And 4. And F3 is now going to fire a phaser at 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 away, a range of 4. So we roll a 5 at a range of 4, so misses. Okay, this guy, oh, he gets to turn. I forgot about him. This is move seeking weapons phase. So we're a little bit out of sync here. So we're going to turn right, oops, and that's the other right, left, and forward. Okay, and then my Klingon can't do anything. He doesn't have any weapons other than these rear. He's got one rear phaser he can fire. So we go to impulse 7, and at this point, this drone moves into the hex, and he gets to go. And in moving into the hex, that'll cause 6 points of damage to Freighter 2. So that's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's your 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now Freighter 2 no longer has a phaser. So 1 and 2 are out on their phaser. So I can delete this drone. And that takes us to... Okay, oh, and then this guy is here. Now he can fire that phaser. Let's show data here. We still have phaser 3. That phaser 3 is this one right back here on the left. So he can I can fire that right there, and I will. So we're going to do it 7 impulse 7, and we're firing at F1. Let's go ahead and close that. We roll it. And we get a 1, so that's perfect. So at a range of 1 with a roll of 1, we get 5 points of damage to F1. See, it's really hard to see there. You can with that nebula in the back. So that's 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we don't have enough yet to bring his speed down again, but that's okay. Okay, we go to next turn, and everybody gets to move. Okay. And that leaves Freighter 4 still has a phaser, and it's at 1, so Freighter 4 can fire. He's the only guy that can fire, and so he fires a 6 at a range of 1. That's 3 points of damage on the Klingons, and it's from here to here, so it's going to be that front shield. 3 points. Not too much. Okay, that ends the turn. So let's change our label up to turn 2. And I think the Klingons will be able to fire everything now except for Phaser 3. They'll have to wait till turn 3 to fire Phaser 3. Oops. And now these speed changes go into effect. I can launch another drone, which I will. And we can start. Okay. I mean, I'm in a great position to just blast everybody out of the sky. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a drone at F3. I'm going to fire both of my rear phasers at... This should really be here at F3. F3. And then I'm going to fire phaser 1 at F3. I'm going to fire phaser 2 at F4. And then the 2 rear phasers, I'm going to fire at F2 and F2. And disruptors, I'm going to fire at F3. F4. And I think I'll fire my other disruptor at F3. Okay. So let's start here with our drone. And he's supposed to be going towards F3. So let's turn him around here. And get rid of that trail. Then we can go through and just figure out. So we're firing everything all at once. Oh, I can't fire. I forgot. I cannot fire at phaser 3. Okay, that's fine because we still have to recharge it. Okay, then I can go with phaser 1 against F3, and that's a two away. And I roll a 2 at a range of 2, so 4 points on F3. Oh, where are you at, F3? Like I said, I got a lot of pieces of paper here. There he is. He's back here. So 4 points on F3. Okay. Then I had a phaser 2 on F4, which was 1 away. And I get a 6. So I get 3 points on F4. Okay. Phaser 4 was firing at F2. And F2 is 1 away with a 5. That's 4 points of damage on this guy. On 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not enough to slow him down. Okay. We've got, that was on F2. Now we've got Disruptor A is on F4. And we're going to roll on our Disruptor table. And we get a 1, so we hit. And that was on F4, so key is 1 hex away, so 5 points of damage to F4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not enough to take his phaser out. And we had one more. F3. F3, a disruptor at a range of 2. Gets a 4, so that's easily enough and does 5 points of damage on F2. Or F3. F3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because you have to get these 5 points of internal damage to knock that phaser out. So he's got a phaser this turn, so, and he's not afraid to use it. Okay, let's get that out of the way. And now we move to turn or impulse 2 and speed of 3. He can't move, so F1 can't move. F2, all the rest of these guys move at a speed of 4, so they can still move. This 2, 3. My Klingon ship's going to go on in here. And that will, he'll move forward, and then my drone moves, and he moves into the same hex as F4, so that'll be 6 points of damage on F4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, not enough to slow him down, but enough to eliminate the phaser, so we can delete that. So we've used everything up except for that one phaser. And and then any phasers? Nope, because this would have been phaser from Freighter 1 that would have fired on this impulse. So nothing there. Okay, we go to turn or impulse 3. Now in impulse 3, this freighter can move, and then I can move my Klingon ship. I'm going to turn and go forward. And at this time, I think I can fire a phaser. Phasers, show data. And this was on phaser 3, which is a left phaser. Right? Phaser 3. No, that's my left phaser. So I'm going to say impulse 3, and I'm firing at F4. Okay, so phaser will roll. I get a 2 at a range of 1 for 5 points. So F4 takes 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So his speed is reduced, and he's now at a speed of 3 as of the beginning of the next turn. Okay. And I think that ends the impulse. And we fired all of our phasers. So basically, the Klingon's going to only move for the rest of the turn. Okay. We go to turn 4, and at this point, he can move. He can move. He can move. And now these Klingons, I think I've got a turn mode of 1 to 8 of 1, so I can turn actually every hex I go forward, I think. So we're going to turn left and forward. Turn 4, that would be phaser from F2. Is F2 still functioning enough? Nope, F2 is not, so he can't fire his phaser. Let's put this guy over here now. Get him out of the way. I wish you could shrink these down just a little bit. That'd be kind of nice to resize them. I think everybody's done everything they can do here. So we go to turn 5. He can move. And that's all the people that can move. We go to turn 6. And in turn 6, I think everybody can move. Yeah. F, 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 and F. Excuse me. So turn 6, everybody can move, and also Freighter 3, if does he have a? He does. He still has a photon or a phaser. He needed one more hit to take it, so he's going to fire at a range of 2 on my Klingon ship, and he gets a 5. So 3 points on the Klingon ship, and now this is one of those that's going to go down the line, so it's going to be odd here, even here. I got odd, so we're going to hit that shield here. 1, 2, 3. What was that? I got a 5. I think I got 3 points. It's really not going to make a difference, but okay, turn 7. I can go again. And actually, I'm going to, instead of that, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go left and forward. And then turn 8, everybody can go again. Oops, let's see, put the Klingon ship there first. Okay, and then this guy, let's see, this is F4. Does he still have a? Freighter 4 does not have a photon, or a phaser, so I keep calling them photons. Don't mean that. Okay, and that ends turn 2. So we'll change label to turn 3. We'll clear our impulse chart. And at this point, he has a speed of 3, he has a speed of 4, speed of 4, speed of 3. Okay. think what we're going to do is we're going to turn to the left with my Klingon ship, or turn to the right, because we're the only ones that can move here. I'm going to go ahead and, again, I'm going to try to hit everybody pretty hard here. Let's show data. I really need to get Cadet Freighter, the one with the photon, or the phasers, down. But so this is turn 3. We're going to send drone 3 to I'm going to try to hit Freighter 3 again. Okay, so drone 3 is going to be released on Freighter 3, and I can fire everything here. We're just going to do that. We are going to go crazy firing everything. So let's start with our disruptors. My 2 forward disruptors are going to go, one's going to go against F1. And this is in turn 1, F1. The second disruptor is going to go 1, F3. And then 1, F1, 1, F3. There's the cat sneezing. Okay. And then phasers 3 and 4, I'm just going to say F2, 1, F2, and 1, F4. And I think that's everything. I'm firing pretty much everything at the same time. I think I can fire the disruptors at the same time. So, okay, let's do some resolution. This will be kind of wild here. So my drone launches. We can go on down then. Phaser 1 at F1 has a range of, let's get that out of the way, 1, 2. I should probably be trying to hit these closer guys, but that's okay. I'm going to try to slow everybody down, and then I can, like I say, then I can pick them off. Phaser 1 at a range of 2. And that's a 3. So 4 points of damage to F1. Where are you at, F1? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now his speed is now down to 2, although he still has a speed of 3 this turn. Okay. He's not going to last. Well, I guess I can't do any more damage to him, though. Okay. Phaser 2 is on F3, and that's again a range of 2, or no, a range of 2, and I get a 6. Not so good. Range of 2, 6. So 3 points damage for this guy. That was for, whoops. Oh, come on. I was hitting F3. That's 3 points damage. Takes phaser out. Okay. Then we had F2 has a phaser at 1 away. We roll a 2, that's good. So 5 points damage on F2. 2, 3, 4, 5. No. It's enough to bring his speed down. F2 now has a speed of 3. And then the other phaser on F4 with a range of 1 I got a 5. So 4 points damage to F4. 2, 3, 4. So he's down to a speed of 2. And then disruptors. I've sent a disruptor for 1. He has a range of 2, so I roll. So as long as I don't roll a 6, okay. He has 4 points of damage for F1. And that's enough to take him out. So we'll delete him and delete him here. And then this other disruptor is going against F3 at a range of 2. I roll a 6. So I miss. That disruptor doesn't work because, let's see, you have to get a 1 to 5. Okay. And that ends that first impulse. Okay, he's got a speed of 3. He's got a speed of 4, and he's got a speed of 3. We count this as a 3, so only this guy with a speed of 4 can go. And then this, and here we can move these guys. Let's see, his speed was, I think he still had a speed of 4. I'm going to move him forward. That's okay. But I know this guy couldn't move. He had a speed of 3. So, okay. Nobody can fire. Actually, nobody has a phaser. There's no more phasers for the freighters. So we move to this phase, and he gets to move him forward and him forward. And that's the end of Impulse 3. Impulse 4, this guy goes forward. This guy can go forward, and then this guy, I guess, I forgot he could move forward last turn, so that's okay. Okay, we go to this guy, and both of these guys move. I think I'm off here. I think these guys should be one more ahead. And then I think I should be here. I think I'm, like I said, I think I'm off by 1. Get out of the way. Like I said, if you could shrink these down, that would be nice. Okay, forward. We're just moving forward there. They'll eventually get there. Okay, now we go to 6, and this guy moves. This guy moves. And our 3 guy moves. And then this guy moves forward. And my drone can turn to the right and go forward and explode. And he hits F4 with 6 points damage, which is enough to destroy F4. So we can just delete him and delete both of those guys. Okay, then we go to turn 7. My Klingon ship is going to go forward 1 more. No, I'm not. I'm going to go right, left, other right. Okay, and then no one else can go. And then turn 8, I'm going to go forward. He's going to go forward. And then he gets to go forward. And that ends the turn. I say Impulse 8. Gosh. Okay. And then we clear this. We go to turn 4. And at that point, we can, everybody, everything can rearm. So we move, let's just say we are going to start with a drone, my last drone, and I'm going to launch it. Oh, I got to move first. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to launch my drone here at F4. And then I'm going to fire my phasers. I'm going to fire both of my left phasers. That would be phaser 1 and 3. 1 and 3 at F2. I did not maneuver. And that's one thing about this game. It really does place a lot of emphasis on maneuvering your ship, so I think, which is kind of cool. So I can't use my disruptors because they need to be in these front hexes. Okay, let's fire the phasers, and we're going to fire phasers. We're at a range of 1. And I can fire 2 of them. So I get a 2 and a 3. Okay, at a range of 1, it's a 5 and a 4. It's a 9 points on F2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's it for F2. Whoops, I just cloned F2. And that ends Impulse 1. Okay, Impulse 2, he now has a speed of 2, so we can take rid of those. He's not going to get to move till Impulse 4, so we're going to move him here. I am going to move... Let's see, I did turn. I can turn... left. I'm going to follow him and forward. Okay. We go to turn, that was turn 2, Impulse 2. We go to Impulse 3, and both of these guys, he's going to turn left and forward, and I'm going to do the same thing. Because I can, because of my turn mode, I think I can do that. Whoops. Let's go left and forward. Okay, and then at this point, I'm going to hit him with my disruptors and phasers 2. I can't do anything with phaser 4, but I can. This is on 3, F4. And then disruptors 3 F4 and 3 F4. Okay, so I've got 2 disruptors and a phaser coming. I think this is gonna... That was F... I got the wrong... I think I just eliminated the wrong guy. Shoot. Okay. Oh well, no, he's... This should be F3. I sent the wrong points. Okay, that's fine. let's start with my phasers. So I have one phaser that can attack, and it's at a range of 2. We roll a die and get a 3. So 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then my disruptors, I'm at a range of 2, so I can get 1 to 5. Yep, I hit, and I hit. So that's at a range of 2, that's 4 points each, so 8 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we go to turn 4. This guy gets to go forward 1. And I'm going to go, and then I'm going to move forward, and this guy's going to go to the left and forward. And then we go to turn 5. He goes forward, and this guy goes right and forward, and the drone hits for 6 points, and that takes him out. So that ends the game, and I can delete these guys. And that is it. So it's kind of fun. I like the maneuvering about it and everything. I still kind of get caught up when I'm playing and get lost in doing things or forget things. And like you see here, I got the wrong freighter entirely, but I think it wouldn't have mattered in the long run. But anyway, that's what I got for this week. I want to again thank everybody for watching. I really appreciate it, especially all you guys. You Starfleet Battle people have been really great about answering my questions and everything. Sometimes in a lot of detail that I was like, oh my gosh. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot. Bye.